It's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I go and look along plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show for people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports and how these contests operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR, it isn't a stupid question, feel free to shoot them away on Twitter, BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything with a grain of salt and use your best judgment making entries. Additionally, if you have a gambling addiction, that's just not my problem. Check your sensitive feelings at the door. We're looking at the Truck Series at Las Vegas again. Now, before we get into this, ask yourself, what is a long run? What do you believe is a long run? Is it, 70 laps, 80 laps? Is it 25 laps? Is it 30 laps? Well, I was kind of curious about that because we're entering Las Vegas, which is really the last racetrack that we go to in really any of the series this year. Like if you look at the Truck Series and you look at the tracks that are left, this is it. You got Las Vegas, which is, a mile and a half, an intermediate track. And then you got Talladega. Okay, nothing really going to be learned from there. Martinsville is a short track, so we can't really use much of the data from the 1.5 miles. Then you go to Phoenix, and you're really going to be using the Martinsville data, the Bristol data, probably Darlington, maybe Gateway a little bit. That's really it. So, Las Vegas is the last time this year that I think we can really use any data, pertaining to the intermediate tracks. Like when you look at the Xfinity Series, okay, sure, they still go to Texas, and the Cup Series still goes to Texas, but Texas is a one-lane racetrack. Like, Texas is decided on restarts. Las Vegas, you can still pass people on long runs. It's still a long-run track. So entering this week, I was asking myself, okay, let me just take a gander and look at the run. Let's look at the running order in the long runs that we've seen. But then when I started looking at the Truck Series, we can't look at Bristol because Bristol's a short track. You can't compare it to Las Vegas. Darlington, okay, sounds good. We'll look at Darlington. Gateway can't use it. Knoxville can't use it. Watkins Glen can't use it. Pocono, okay, we'll gander at Pocono a little bit. Not necessarily an intermediate track, but you can still learn stuff from the speed. Nashville, going to be a no there. Fort Worth, sure, let's look at it. And then I saw that, okay, there's no long runs ran there. And even in general, we don't see very long runs in the Truck Series. One, because the stages are so short. If there's a yellow or a competition in the first, or a competition yellow in the first stage, it basically just turns that first stage into at max a 20-lap run. Stage 2, same thing. If there's a yellow at some point, that we end up killing off and burning off 4 laps of the second stage because we're under yellow. And so stage 3 in the Truck Series is really the only time you can look at long runs. And if there's a yellow or debris or whatever, something stupid, and especially not towards the end of the race because generally these Truck Series races have just become, wreckfest towards the end of the races. So it's very rare that we see a long run speed or that we see a long run. And so I look back at the 3 long runs that I think you can look at data from at Darlington. And so the Darlington run that I wanted to look at, and you can use any lap. You can look at any part of the long run. Personally, for me, I don't necessarily like looking at the very end of the long run because that's when cars that are just poorly set up or specifically not built for a long run have fallen off. It's when the gaps between cars have grown to, such spaces, like the running position, you got a car second back, car 2.5 seconds back, things of that nature. The time in between each car isn't really showing any battles or showing anything. Everybody's kind of been running where they are. I don't want to look at the start of the run because that's more of a short run type of setup. And so you might be asking yourself, why am I looking at lap 136 in the Darlington race where the green flag run was from lap 116 to 147? Well, I think 136 is a good indication of where everyone is. You can kind of see who has a longest or a long run type of truck because they haven't exactly fallen off to being the worst part of their setup, in their run. But it's long enough to see where everybody's kind of cycled through. For Pocono, I know it's Pocono, but it was a long run that I think you can still look at because you can look at who had speed in the Pocono race. Pocono is Pocono in the bigger tracks, Michigan, Auto Club, Pocono. I like to look at Pocono just to see where everybody is aerodynamically, everybody is on speed, what type of speed you're carrying down the straightaways, things of that nature. So I looked at lap 49. They ended up having a caution come out on lap 52 because Stuart Friesen wrecked. And so I just decided to look at lap 42. I think that's a good running position. And then on the Charlotte race, their longest run was between lap 69 and 115. I end up looking at at lap 95, mainly because teams are starting to pit around lap 100 through basically a lap 106. A couple things to note is that Zane Smith was basically running fifth in that race. He came out under the yellow on lap 67 at the tail end of the line because he had a pit road penalty. His crew was over the wall too soon. He was running fifth. So Zane Smith would have most likely been in the top 5 in this situation. Now, you might be looking at this like, why do I have 2 separate names here? Well, because this is the lap that I'm looking at. So on like lap 136, you had Creed first at Darlington, John Nemechek, Friesen, Infinger, yada, yada, yada. This is the running position there. And then I have race rating because I also wanted to just, and this is not really scientific. I was just curious about this. I wanted to look at this and then compare it to race rating, and I just figured I'd throw this into the video. I did this for Xfinity as well. Cup Series I didn't because race rating is pretty, I don't need to do this for the Cup Series because we do have long runs. I can just look at race rating and understand. I can look at lap by lap data, which I suggest that you do as well. If you're not using racefortheprize.com, I don't know what you're doing. But anyway, so at Darlington, this was the lap 136. This is the race rating of the race. And I just wanted to compare kind of where everybody was running. I was just curious if there was any similarities between where these guys were running during their long run and where their race rating was, if things changed. And you'll see some variation. And I mainly wanted to look at the guys who are running inside the top 10 on these 3 races. I know it's spread out between pretty much a 3-month time span, but I highlighted the drivers that are basically top 12 drivers in each race, going all the way back to Charlotte. And so it's the guys you kind of expect, like John Nemechek would be there. Creed would probably be there at Charlotte. He just got wrecked out of turn 4. And then obviously we're missing Zane Smith, but I just want to do this just to kind of put in perspective, because going back to Las Vegas is the last race that I think a lot of this data matters, at least for this year. Once we get going into next year, once we're back in March, February, of course, we'll be looking back at the intermediate tracks. But Las Vegas this is it. Now, Las Vegas is either going to be a green race or a wreck fest. At this point, I've gotten extremely lucky the last 2 weekends, or last 2 truck races. I finished 13th in the GPP at Darlington. I finished 8th at Bristol. So close, just so close. Haven't taken down the GPP yet, or at least that one. I've taken down some other ones, but we're getting close. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to look at this and see where everybody was running. I kind of scroll down for you to see if you care about this stuff. If not, I just thought it was interesting to look at, and so I figured I'd throw it in there, or at least talk about it, because it's the type of stuff that I kind of do during the week. Sometimes I do this in a different sheet and I don't really talk about it because nobody cares enough. But I was just curious to see how these cars were doing and seeing how everybody was. So going to Vegas, and there's 2 other things I want to talk about. So, and I talked about, I think, in the Monster Squad Discord, but Nice, the top Nice truck, this is going to be kind of a lengthy explanation, but in the beginning of the year, Kyle Busch Motorsports was head and shoulders above the field. All 4 trucks were faster, in general, than the rest of the field. We've seen the GMS trucks catch up over the course of this year. They've made adjustments. They've brought new trucks to the track, and they've made improvements. And we've seen that GMS is starting to become probably more consistent as a whole organization than KBM. We're seeing that the top niche truck, basically Hocevar, is on par with the lower end of KBM and the middle part of GMS. And so that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Let me try and word. How did I word it in here? Let me think. The gap between, I kind of already said this, but I'm just going to say it again. So the gap between the lower Kyle Busch Motorsports trucks, so the Christian Eckes, the Chandler Smith, the 51 truck, whenever Kyle isn't in that, or like a Cup driver isn't in that, the gap between those guys, the top 2 niche trucks, and so you're seeing that Hocevar is up there. You're seeing usually whoever is the most funded of the weekend, not Truex. I guess Purdy to an extent, although Purdy really isn't that consistent second place niche truck. But you see the top 2 niche trucks and the bottom 2 GMS trucks. So the Jack Wood entry this weekend, who else is in the other one this weekend? Just one blank. Not Tyler Ankrum, although he's the third one. God dang it, I can't remember. Chase Purdy. That's what I was thinking. I think I mentioned him in a knee strike. Anyway, if you look at him in terms of organizations, those are probably the three fastest organizations we're seeing right now. Obviously, we're seeing ThorSport there, but ThorSport is always, their cars are always 11th through 10th, whereas we're trying to figure out who is the cars between 5th and 1st each and every week. And I mean, it's kind of long-winded. It all goes back to basically like John Nemechek and Sheldon Creed are the two favorites to lead laps here. Like everybody already knows that going in, but we need to at least pay attention to where like GMS is heading up towards, or where they're going to, like, and where Hocevar in the niche truck is. Like Hocevar is a top 5 car right now. We're seeing Zane Smith. Obviously, Zane Smith wasn't the highlight of the season like he was last year, but Smith has kind of gone from a 13th, 12th place truck this year to a 7th and 8th. We've seen Todd Gilliland, a guy that I really didn't put a lot of stake in, a guy that I really didn't see a whole lot of this year. But when I look back and like see like, oh wow, Todd Gilliland's like running 5th. He's running 4th most races. I guess I'm just really not paying attention to that. And like I said, Las Vegas seems like the kind of the last race we can really use this data, or at least look into that type of stuff. So that's kind of what I've been looking at this weekend. I'm sure some of you are already bored. Some of you are already hating how I'm kind of rambling here. But yeah, I like this. Like I like this weekend. I'm going to be looking at a lot of, and I already have, but a lot of lap by lap data this year of those longer runs, and which is why I brought these up. I just think these are great indicators of where these teams are. Like Austin Hill, for example, this weekend. Sure, Darlington, he was 12th, 7th in the longest run at Pocono. I think Austin Hill was he was 4th at Charlotte. And so we're seeing that Austin Hill, while he might not be that lap leader, and he's kind of squeaked out a win, at Knoxville, at Watkins Glen. But in terms of where he is this weekend, like Austin Hill, 9,800 starting 10th, like we can project him around, 7th, 6th, 5th this weekend. So whenever I make projections, like it's not just like, oh, I'm just throwing this guy in there, I'm giving this guy 5th. Like, no, I'm looking at his race ratings at the tracks this year. I'm looking at his lap by lap data, even his track history. Like when you look at Austin Hill's track history, we're seeing 3rd, 1st, 3rd, 1st, 30th, and 29th. I don't think Austin Hill's going to be the 3rd best car this weekend. I would probably put him more around 7th, 6th. That's how I'm doing my projections. That's how I do things. And so hopefully this kind of gives you an idea of what I think you should be looking at, especially right now, because a lot of people don't give a fuck about the truck series. It's all about the NFL. I mean, I think this is mainly the last week for intermediate tracks to really kind of dive into the data. After this is just short track racing and a super speedway. Like this is kind of it. Like I think this is the week you put on a lot of work, and I think research is gonna pay dividends in this weekend, probably more than some of the short track races, because we might see chaos at Martinsville. We might see some dumb shit at Phoenix. So hopefully this race goes green. If it goes yellow late, some of this research might not be as valid because some of those guys might get wrecked. We saw last time we were here at Las Vegas, you had David Gilliland block the field entering one, wreck about 6-7 cars, and things of that nature. But I'm liking this week a lot, and so I've already done the projections for these drivers. This is just based on where they are in value. I haven't done fast laps or laps led yet, but I've basically done the positions, and that can usually give me a good idea. Like right now, my last point that I wrote down. I think GMS has a better platform, better motors, better setups for tracks that have a very high RPM in a short time and in short bursts. So basically like short track racings, short tracks. Because I think of more short tracks of what the motor's having to do in terms of like Las Vegas, for an example. Sure, it's still going to go up to like 8,200, whatever their chip is. It's still going to go to 8,000 RPM, but in terms of how fast the motor can get there and how much power it can put in between or on the rear tires. And so Las Vegas, an air-dependent track, I think that's where Kyle Busch has the advantage. Whereas I think GMS has made a ton of gains in the short tracks and in the tracks that are having a much shorter time needed to get to that higher RPM. I don't know if that makes sense, but like this last weekend for at Bristol. I loved Sheldon Creed. We got extremely lucky, having a discount ownership with him. I didn't understand that necessarily because he was starting on the preferred lane. Nobody's going to be able to pass, and GMS has shown that they're better on the short tracks and better with mechanical grip setups this year. They finally caught up and kind of passed KBM in that aspect. We've seen that John Nemechek, and I'm not saying this because he's specifically missed setups or that these guys have arrived at the track with the wrong setups, but they weren't, the end-all be-all at the short tracks this year, and I think that's where GMS has kind of caught up, whereas I think this is the last time where we can really lean into John Nemechek, because I'm a bit worried that Sheldon Creed will end up having the better truck at Phoenix, end up having the better truck at Martinsville, and it kind of rolls into, my whole complaint about the playoff system. I think Sheldon Creed should be the guy you look at to be the champion right now. GMS is moving in the right direction. KBM is not going that way for short tracks. For intermediates, I love John Nemechek. I like KBM more this week than I probably will for the rest of the year. KBM has been better on, like I just said, the arrows and the 1.5 miles. And you can even look at how they ran at Nashville, how they ran at the 1.5 miles, because Nashville ran more like an intermediate track than it did a short track. Long-winded. I'm kind of I had way too much coffee this morning, so I'm just yapping a ton. But I like KBM probably more this weekend than I will for the rest of the year, because I do think they have a slight edge in setups. But Sheldon Creed is offering just so many points, and he's not expensive enough. And so I'm going to be trying to get John Nemechek and Sheldon Creed into most of my lineups. Might pivot to one or the other, but right now it's pretty easy to get both those guys into your lineups. Chandler Smith can contend for fast laps, but we're not dealing with that many laps in this Vegas race right now. It's going to be a no for me, just based on how a lot of my builds are looking right now. But I'm probably not going to be using Chandler Smith right now. I got him projected for 30 points. As I said, I'm not giving anybody fast laps or laps led. I'll probably do that tonight when I make the PDF for Patreon, which you can get if you go to Patreon in the description below. Support me through PayPal if you don't want to join Patreon. But I think you should. I think you should try it out. And if you are on there, thank you for supporting me during the NFL season. Stuart Friesen, kind of going back to here, and this is just a good visual. Where has Friesen been? Longest run at Darlington. Late in the race, they were able to make some changes, running around third in lap 136. Okay, let's check out where Friesen was at Pocono right before he wrecked. Oh, yeah, he was racing for 14th with Tanner Gray and Josh Berry. Okay, well, let's kind of check out Charlotte, because Charlotte's, and always a good indicator of where people are, because it's the smoothest, perfect intermediate track there is. Oh, he was running third. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to give, I can project Sheldon Creed or Stuart Friesen probably around 7th to a 4th place car this week. Let's give him like a 7th place finish. Oh, what's that? Oh, it's going to be like 33 points. Okay, well, what if he gets some fast laps? Okay, maybe he moves up to 35 points. Maybe he moves up to 36, 37. But even with that said, I think you need to consider Friesen. But right now, I got Friesen, barely trying to hit like 4.5, 4.2 value. I think it needs to be considered, but I'm a bit hesitant right now because I don't see him really getting over 40 points in this one here. Zane Smith kind of talked about it, making not a resurgence, but certainly getting more and more consistent, becoming getting faster late in the year than he was earlier this year. But I still got to project him for like 8th, man. Like I don't see Zane Smith, certainly I don't see him getting out in front of John Nemechek. And the place differential a lot of guys are offering this weekend, it just doesn't make sense for me to go to Zane Smith this weekend when I think there's going to be other cars doing better. Let's just I give him 6 right now. What is that? That's around 36 points, 3.5 value. I don't see it, man. I don't see him getting enough fast laps and laps led to really, get him out of that hole that he's kind of dug in. Hocevar is interesting. He's starting right where he should finish. I've been playing Hocevar like crazy last month and a half, and 5th is what I've been giving Hocevar a lot. Got to give him around 7th, man. I think he gets past. Oops, wrong one. I think he gets past. And what is that going to be? That's going to be around like 35 points, which can work out if he can get the lead, which we've seen that he's trying to get the lead under yellow. He's trying to get the lead through pit stops. It's just that they keep getting beat by the KBM pit crews. I like Hocevar to remain in the player pool, and I'd much rather go to Hocevar than Friesen. I like Hocevar to maintain a top 10 position this entire race. I think he's going to get some fast laps, but not a priority for me right now. Matt Crafton, I'd much rather go to Hocevar, so that's just where I'm going. I'm going to be going to Hocevar and not even bothering with Crafton. Same thing with Rhodes. I got Rhodes finishing 7th, finishing right where he started at 37 points. Probably not going to be a priority for me. That's just not where I'm going to go. Gillen, talked about him as I'm kind of looking through, or showing you that those laps I was looking at. Round of 5th, 4th place driver. Let's give him 4th. So what is that? That's giving Gillen probably around 44 points, 4.5 value. Going to have to lead laps. Going to have to get up there. How likely is that? I don't see it. I just, it's hard for me to imagine a race to where Nemechek isn't leading, Creed isn't leading, even Hocevar isn't leading, and even Gillen like getting it under yellow. Like I just don't see Gillen getting out and leading laps. I know it's always a possibility, but I kind of like to deal, not necessarily in absolutes, but in realistic projections. Like, do I see Gillen getting out there? I don't see him leading this race. I got Creed finishing 2nd right now, getting fast laps, getting laps. Like, I haven't projected him, but I know I'm going to give him fast laps. He's going to be an A for me, a priority for me right now. Austin Hill starting 10th, probably going to finish around 6th. That's what I'm giving him, around 42 points. Yet again, not going to be a priority for me. I know he looks good, and I know you're going to be like, okay, well, look at his track history. Look at where he's been running this year. Yeah, but do I see him winning? Do I see him really killing the field? No, I can't. And so, although he's a top 10 car, you could argue a top 5 car probably, if we do get long runs in this race, and this race is decided on a long green flag run. Outside of that, I don't see Austin Hill really doing much, and so that's why I'm giving him an F. And I'm kind of going long here because a lot of people ask me, why don't I just cut people out of the player pool? Well, when I project them, or when I give them projected DraftKings points, and I look at the value, like if you're like 4.2, 4.3 for $9,800, like I'm just not even going to bother using you. Same thing with Johnny Sauter. What do we see Sauter really doing? Giving him a 10th place. Can't do much out of that. Like, you're overpaying for Johnny Sauter. I just don't see it. 34 points for me. That's what I'm giving him right now. I don't see it. Derek Kraus. I think Kraus is going to be popular. Not necessarily chalk, but I think people are going to go to Kraus just because I think a lot of lineups are going to probably allow you to get an 8K driver in there, and they're probably not going to have enough for Friesen. They're not going to want to use Hocevar. They're probably either already using Drew Dollar, and for whatever reason, I just think Kraus gets ownership, and I don't really know why. He's not that good. He wrecks a lot. He tears up a lot of equipment, and he just hasn't been that fast this year. I'm giving him 13th right now, so for me, Kraus is just not in the player pool. Austin Wayne Self, a guy who's been really consistent, a little bit more expensive this week, $5,800. I wish he was around 55. We've seen that Austin, and I'll even show you this here. So like let's see where Austin Wayne Self is running deep into a run, where he is on speed. 14th at Darlington. Okay, let's check out Pocono. Where is Austin Wayne Self at? 21st at Pocono. Okay, where is he at Charlotte in the long run? Where's Austin Wayne Self? If I can find him without having to control F this. 21st. And so, I mean, like, under speed, where this car is, he's running around 17th, 18th, falls back a bit on the long run, starting 13th, that's up there. Right now I'm giving Austin Wayne Self 26 points. I think we got to keep him in there because we're going to need to go to a 5K driver, so we're going to have to compare Austin Wayne Self to the other 5K drivers right now, but right now he's just slightly in there. I think there's better plays, and I'm pretty sure you kind of already know who I'm talking about in the back. Same thing with Ryan Truex. I talked about how Nice is kind of gaining ground on the other teams. Truex is not. I don't understand this price scene at all. I give him 17th as like a ceiling. Because of that, he's just not going to be in there. I think he's overpriced. Christian Eckes, a guy that we've seen be consistent this year, a guy that we've seen be extremely fast this year. I actually need to change this because this is bugging me back here on my other screen. Give me a moment. I was like, why are all my projections just looking at yellows? And it's because I had a way higher number in the back. So Christian Eckes is projected for me as probably the top value on the slate right now. Giving him around 7 positions gained. Probably going to land you around 40, 42, 43, 44 points. for 7,300. I just think he's underpriced right now, and so I got him for a 5.7 value right now. I think Christian Eckes is by far the best value in this entire slate. I'll probably end up probably being overweight. Don't know how many lineups I'm going to make, but I like Eckes a lot this week. Ankrum, a guy who's been fast as well, but I just don't see Ankrum doing much than getting 10th, 9th, 8th, somewhere around there. That's like his ceiling. I think a more realistic finishing position is probably 11th or 12th at Ankrum, and because of that, I just think he's overpriced. Probably won't be going to Ankrum, especially if I'm paying up for Creed and John Nemechek in lines, or even one or the other. It's hard for me to get to that 9K range, and it's hard for me to really see Tyler Ankrum killing the field when all those other guys aren't doing that. Haley Deegan going to be a no for me. Drew Dollar, I think he's going to do better in this race than he has in the past. He's ran into some issues this year. I don't mind giving Drew Dollar around 11th place. Today I got him at a 5.2 value. I like Drew Dollar. I like a lot of the 7K range, and it makes it really easy to make, top-heavy lineups with 2 10K guys in there when you got the 7K range with so many good plays, and same with the 6K range. Like, this is a week where it should be fairly easy to pay up for guys. I like Chase Purdy. I wish he was a bit cheaper, but he's going to remain in the pool. Same thing with Jack Wood. Sketchy, for sure. I mean, you could say that about anybody. All these drivers can wreck at any point, and so trying to argue, well, he's kind of sketchy, he could wreck, he could not wreck, that's everybody. So let's say Chase Purdy doesn't wreck. Where is Chase Purdy most likely going to be racing during this race? Probably 15th, 14th if he doesn't wreck. I would argue probably the same thing with Jack Wood. So keep him in the player pool. I'm fine with that. Roper, not going to be in the pool. I like Brett Moffatt. So here is kind of going back to the video I made last Wednesday talking about good drivers in not sketchy equipment, but equipment that you don't necessarily look at, and it pops off to you. And so, and Moffatt actually made it easy because Moffatt is pretty sure that this is one of his old GMS trucks. Or not who the hell did he run? Who's it? Hold on. Sorry, I gotta look something up real quick. Yeah, this is when he was in the 24 car. So he's pretty sure that this is one of the GMS trucks that he won at, or that he won with at most likely Chicagoland in 2019. And so, just saying that, like, I think Peters may have been the issue here. Barry isn't, blowing the wheels off anything for sure. But when we look at how Josh Berry has performed in this truck and kind of compare him to how this truck started with Timothy Peters early in the year. So this is, actually, I'll just bring it up on screen so it's easy to see. This is how you can kind of see where Peters was finishing. So, we had a 16th place run at Las Vegas. Peters he was kind of running subpar Richmond, Kansas. And if you want to see, really what he's doing, go check out racefortheprize.com so you can look at the lap by lap data. Very easy to read fashion. But when Josh Berry got in there, okay, 10th at Fort Worth. Maybe I wasn't paying enough attention there. We have, 11th at Pocono. Okay, I don't really remember that, but hey, he's not doing half bad. 11th at Watkins Glen, 15th at Gateway, 17th at Bristol, or 17th at Darlington, 11th at Bristol. Maybe Peters really was the issue. And so I made the argument with Colby Howard in the 9 truck, getting more out of that than Cody Roebal, and then obviously Enfinger getting more out of that car than Roebal was doing. And so when we look at Brett Moffatt hopping in this truck, why would he be hopping in this truck unless he thought it was a good truck? And leaning the correct way so far this year on, John Nemechek hopping in the Sam Hunt truck, Colby Howard jumping in the 9. I can't think of anybody else right now. Certain guys hopping in the Rick Ware cars. I'm going to lean towards trying to be over the field on Brett Moffatt. It doesn't seem like a smart play. Like right now, I barely have Moffatt hitting a 5x value at 46 points right now. But I get a feeling that I'd much rather play Moffatt here and regret it than not play him and probably be with the field on that and then him do well. So for me, it just seems like a play that I need to probably make. And so because of that, Brett Moffatt is going to be an A for me. Enfinger as well. However, I'm much more likely to try and get to Moffatt over Enfinger. Tyler Hill, most likely going to be a no for me. Got him at a 4-1 value right now with 26 points. Bit concerned about that. Howie as well. Not going to be going to Howie. When we get to Chris Wright, not going to be going to Chris Wright. Hacker in the niche truck. Yet again, kind of a situation where I'd actually rather play Hacker when I don't think he's going to be as owned as he probably should be, as we're kind of seeing the niche cars, or the niche trucks at least get more competitive. And it's not hitting back towards the year where they were putting everything towards Ross Chastain, but I like Hacker this weekend. Giving around a 16th place finish, a 17th place finish. I think that's fine. 37 points. I'll happily do that. And so I'll probably be trying to get to Hackert quite a bit. I kind of want to be over the field. I'm going to keep Danny Bowen in the pool, see what happens in the optimizer. Tanner Gray, I thought for sure Tanner Gray would be popping off more. Giving him 11 positions gained, actually 12. I thought that'd be enough to get him a 5X. It's not. I got him at 37 points. We're going to leave him in there. Excuse me. I just thought Tanner Gray would probably be popping off more. And so this is an example that we've kind of seen this year of where I kind of project somebody to do where I think he should be. And then I look at where he is in terms of value, in terms of points. And if I'm giving him like 37, even if he gets like 40, 42, 41, I think Tanner Gray is going to be like real chalky this week. He fits through a lot of lineups. And I think this is a situation to where a lot of people are going to probably play Christian Eckes and Tanner Gray and feel very confident in their line. And I think Tanner has a higher percentage to bust than be optimal. Or at least not in bust, but not be optimal. Versus being optimal and not being optimal, I would probably lean more to not being optimal. And so why am I going to bother playing Tanner Gray? So that's kind of where I'm at. Probably projecting out as a good play, but I want to be under the field on Tanner Gray. CJ going to be a no for me. Spencer Boyd most likely to be a no for me. Jennifer Jo Cobb, no. Tate Fogelman, no. Davis, no. Now here we're heading back to Brett Holmes. Early in the year, I projected for a 15th. I projected for a 19th. He still didn't hit it. I kept projecting for like a 22nd. So what am I giving Brett Holmes today? Giving him 13 positions gained. I don't think that's crazy. Now, Brett can still wreck. He could still do that, but I don't think it's crazy for Brett to pass 13 cars and finish with around 31, 30, 32, 33, 34 DraftKings points. And so for me, and I think he's burned enough people to where we might get a little discount ownership compared to where he was at some point. I like Brett Holmes a lot. Lupton is going to be in a Reum Brothers car in the 33. I don't understand why he's hopping in this car. I think it's just going to be a Reum prepared truck. I think he's overweight. I think he's overpriced right now. And I got Ray. I just gave him a value of, what is that? 111,000 because he's not on DraftKings at the moment. I probably won't even be using Ray whenever we do get his price now. But this is kind of where we're at. Like almost a smaller pool than I thought we would. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Like a 14-person player pool. Like, I don't think that's crazy. I don't think we need a gigantic player pool this week. And when I got guys specifically hitting value in certain positions or guys that I just like, I'm probably going to stick with around a 14-driver player pool. Maybe 16th or 16. Bristol was kind of a race where I felt like I could open that up. I think in the Cup Series I ran a player pool of 21 drivers. But we're kind of back to getting a pretty small player pool. And so that's kind of where I'm at this week in the Truck Series. And I gotta remove those again. I always forget to do that. That's where I'm at. So hopefully this kind of helps you out. Hopefully you liked it. If not, well, thank you for listening to me at least. And check out the other videos when I got them up. So we'll see you then.